Hi everyone and welcome to Modern Horror. I'm a pretty big fan of the Paranormal Activity series. It's definitely got its rough spots and some of the entries are brimming with absolute what the fuckery, but overall, I like the movies. And whatever your feelings on found footage as a style might be when Paranormal Activity is good, it really shows off why that style can be so interesting. So starting here, I'm going to be taking a look at all the movies in the series over the next couple of months, but in the interest of variety, I will be alternating those with other movies. So I saw the first Paranormal Activity movie in the theater in October 2009, and I really liked it. The ebb and flow of the tension in the format that the film used really worked for me, especially coming off the yearly adventure in excess that Saw franchise had become. This was something new and fresh. So while Saw had been a Halloween tradition during most of my college years, after I graduated, Paranormal Activity sort of fell into that niche. And at least for a few years, it was a nice and comfortable fall outing. Originally released independently during the found footage boom of 2007, Paranormal Activity was shot for only $15,000 in just 1 week. To save money, writer-director Oren Peli shot the film in his own house and used the first-person found footage style, so that he wouldn't need locations or a camera crew. All the cinematography was done by either Peli himself or actor Micah Sloat. It did pretty well at Screamfest, and after some recuts wound up in DreamWorks' lap with Jason Blum as a producer. The original plan was to let Peli completely remake the movie with a bigger budget, but after people walked out of a test screening of the original cut because they were too scared, the studio decided against the remake. DreamWorks kicked it up the ladder to the parent company, Paramount, which recut the movie again and shot 2 alternate endings. So of the 3 endings that now existed, the one which left things the most open to sequels was used for the theatrical cut.
Of course. It's just good business.
The movie got a theatrical release in fall of 2009, which was quickly expanded as fans went to Eventful.com to demand the movie in their city. This run went on to make almost $200 million at the box office, which is something like 12,000 times its production budget, making it possibly the single most financially successful movie ever made. It also kicked off the incredibly successful low-budget horror production studio Blumhouse. Paranormal Activity became the found footage horror franchise that would dominate October for the next several years, until number 4 bombed so hard that number 5 has been delayed for almost 2 years, leaving fans with just a spin-off of, shall we say, questionable racial sensitivity.
My shit. Sherlock Holmes.
But here we are, back where it all began, and it began with a guy screwing around with his new video camera and using it to annoy his girlfriend.
I think it's a giant-ass camera.
You know, anytime you buy a new piece of technology, you're pretty much contractually obligated to fuck around with it for at least a day or 2.
Are you happy? Do you have enough batteries?
I've got to appreciate the realism of being way too interested in using a new gadget. Also, this is probably the most realistic camera to be using to actually get the picture quality that it does. Later on in this franchise, they have people getting amazing HD cinema-worthy videos off of cell phones, laptops, $300 camcorders. As they banter, we get a sense of their characters.
What'd you throw down for that?
Well, about half as much as I made today.
And I'm getting the sense that Mika might be a douche.
Good thing you're cute.
I'll get more into this later, but it is kind of tough to discuss a lot of this movie since the dialogue is almost all improvised, and the overall structure is this loop of daytime, before bed, and then something creepy happens at night. So the exposition comes really slowly, and the scares are mostly built on tension, which leaves a lot of empty movie. It's pretty effective, but you need to give it time to play out, so when you're trying to summarize it all like I am, it condenses a lot. So if it seems like I'm going too fast or leaving stuff out, I'm really not. These scenes of Katie and Mika going about their evening naturally and discussing things actually sets up the premise of the movie. That Katie is experiencing disturbing phenomenon during the night that she can't explain. So in a well-meaning attempt to help his girlfriend, Mika's going to use the camera to try to get an explanation for her. So he's going to set it up in their bedroom to capture the overnight activity, and possibly other sorts of activity.
We could get a
Be careful, you
little
better run into the shower.
extracurricular with this.
You know, after that new gadget high fades, most technology pretty much gets used for either porn or cats. Finally, they go to bed and the first of the movie's famed time-lapse night vision sequences starts. On the first night of haunting, my demon gave to me a set of dropped keys. Today there's going to be a psychic coming over. See, Katie thinks that the disturbances are paranormal and hopes that the psychic, Dr. Fredericks, will confirm that. Mika, however, is a realist and believes the camera will show a mundane explanation. Because he's also a douche, he mocks the doctor.
Maybe I'll play this when he gets here. I think it'll make him feel at home.
Dr. Psychic is here as a story device to let Katie talk about her past with the hauntings on camera.
Has happened to you before moving into this house?
Yes. It started when I was 8.
Since she's already told Mika about it, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for her to tell him again. As you know, Mika, when I was 8 years old, things would move around my sister and I's room, and we would see a figure at the foot of my bed. Yes, I recall that story, Katie, and if memory serves, it was always your bed, never your sister's. Yeah.
Can you see ahead of like that kind of thing? Like, you know, like knowing the traffic's gonna be bad?
Mika is here as a device to mock the doctor. Another interesting function of Dr. Psychic is that while he's here touring the house, Katie gets to describe various recent haunting activities so we can get a sense of the scope of things without having to film flashbacks or anything. And Mika drives home his realist stance by mocking everyone.
You shouldn't let your mother come over anymore. That's fine.
Wait, hold on, what do you say? Rewind that.
Let your mother come over anymore.
Okay, getting ahead of myself quite a bit in the series, and obvious spoilers here for Paranormal Activity 3, but this raises a pretty interesting question because Katie's actual mother is pretty conclusively killed at the end of the third movie. So is the woman that Mika refers to here Katie's grandma Lois? I mean, how old is she by now? Is this a rec continuity error or hints of cult indoctrination?
Tonight on 60 Minutes.
On the second night of haunting my demon gave to me, he moved the door twice. Hey, look at that, maybe doors are evil. Mika reviews the footage in the morning and sees the door move. It seems like he's completely bought into this ghost thing and is now thrilled at his foresight in buying the camera.
That's so awesome.
I want to note that the two main phrases I've used to describe Mika so far are well-meaning and tool. And this scene sort of encapsulates that nature. When Katie screams, his instinct is to go protect his girlfriend, but he also really wants concrete evidence of the supernatural after getting the door on video, so he grabs the camera just in case it's the ghost. If this were any one of a dozen other found footage movies I've seen, he wouldn't have hesitated to grab the camera. Hell, he probably wouldn't have put it down in the first place. This would have made him an almost irredeemable tool. But in this case, his jackassery is tempered a little bit by genuinely caring about another person. But just to make sure our opinion of him doesn't get too high, he lightly taunts the entity before settling in for some bedtime reading.
Is part of your master plan just to move the door? Or are you just doing random shit?
Doing some research on hauntings, he's moved on from Ghost the Demon, which isn't exactly exciting news, but he plays it off.
These demons suck. That's all good. I'll take care of it.
Point of interest, this is an actual book and not a prop. It was published in 1971. You can find it on Amazon for about $14. Oren Peli did a lot of research into a real-world demonic lore for this movie so that it would be as authentic as possible, so they probably just grabbed this from his bookshelf downstairs. Moving on, they lock up and go to sleep. On the third night of haunting, my demon gave to me. Jeez. Oh, demon bro. What is that, man? Your stereo sounds like it's got a short in it.
Ah, damn, I hear that. Damn warranty just expired, too.
Ah, man, that is so typical, dude.
That's what I get for buying this cheap Chinese crap. This is gonna cost an arm replace. Maybe I can take this to...
And drop the bass! Ah, man, I was just kidding. You should have seen your face. It was hilarious. You're like, What? Mika can taunt the demons of hell, but I can't play a practical joke with some magnets?
You ass!
Oh, hey, look, it's morning already. Katie is pretty shaken, so she invites a friend over to recover with some quality girl time while Mika dives into investigating the night's video. He finds a creepy, almost inhuman voice. And then his jerk factor raises to petulant child levels when he tries to share his find.
Fuck, I'm trying to show you guys something.
Hey, you be sweet.
Nothing happens for a few days, so we cut to some time later where Mika is, of course, taunting the demons in activity before bed.
Hey, we haven't had anything interesting happen in a while. Your demon's worthless. You're worthless. Got nothing.
Oh, hey, you're back. Sorry about the stereo thing. It's fine, right?
Yeah, no harm done. Just stay away from the damned expensive shit.
Alright, well, see ya.
Why is my room filled with packing peanuts?
Drama queen. This is where the movie begins to change up the strict daytime before bed, nighttime cycle that it's set up. Before now, whenever something scary has happened overnight, the tension has been completely released during the day. Starting here, that doesn't happen. Because the nights are getting worse, the couple is fighting more about the camera.
Because you don't take it seriously.
Katie sees that the camera and or Mika's taunting are making things worse and wants him to stop, but Mika has fixated on the idea of communicating with the demon so he can somehow get it to leave. I will say that it's not actually all his fault, but leave it at that. Though the taunting still isn't a great idea. Mika tries recording some EVP and picks up this sort of growl. I almost wish that the semi-intelligent sounds from earlier had been here and the growl was in the nighttime recording. It just seems like it would have been a much better escalation. This time at night, Katie gets out of bed and stares at Mika for several hours before wandering into the backyard. This movie was intended to be fairly realistic, and Oren Peli put a lot of research into what is actually reported to happen during hauntings, so this partial possession is shit getting pretty real. Since he's been unable to get a straight answer to the demon using audio, Mika hopes it knows how to spell and borrows a Ouija board. This infuriates Katie because she told him not to go buy one. He tries to play the technically correct card, but she is having none of it. Sinister, this ain't.
I promised you I wasn't gonna buy a Ouija board. I didn't buy a Ouija board.
You knew exactly what I meant.
I borrowed a Ouija board.
You.
They storm off on a date, which leaves the camera running, and it records the planchette from the Ouija board moving on its own and then spontaneously combusting. Mika, idiotic tool that he is, decides it's a way better idea to try to reverse engineer the letters the planchette pointed to rather than call a demonologist at literal hellfire. Before bed, Mika sprinkles some talcum powder on the ground to try to catch the demon in the act. After some creaking wakes them up, they find footprints and follow them. They lead to the attic, where they find a photo of a young Katie that was supposed to have been destroyed in a house fire. Finally trying to call the demonologist, they can't get a hold of him, so they try to call Dr. Friedrichs again, but he isn't really that much help. He just kind of wanders in and goes, "Oh man, this place is way 3 spooky, 5 me. Demon doesn't like me, okay, bye." And on that sort of down note, they turn in for what is sure to be a pretty unsettling night. First we get the famous bedsheet blowing shot from the trailer, then a shadow goes into the room right before Katie gets startled awake. She's still really freaked out in the morning while Mika has found the case of a girl who had similar problems, coincidentally named Diane, which was possibly what the Ouija board spelled.
This chick, Diane, one of the possibilities from the board. Right,
later, Mika keeps probing and Katie finally snaps at him in the camera.
You and your stupid camera are the problem.
Shut up!
They have a huge fight, but Katie breaks down and Mika stops and tries to comfort her.
I'm sorry.
You didn't do anything. Listen to me, it's not
Pretty thoroughly demoralized, they go back to bed.
Get over here!
After this, they spend the rest of the night downstairs on couches, and in the morning they find the demon took a little nibble on Katie. They try to get through the day, but Katie goes catatonic, and Mika finds her holding a cross so tightly that it's actually broken her skin. And in a fit of pure raging idiocy, he burns what is apparently the only holy symbol in his house, along with the photo of Katie from the attic. He decides they're going to try to go to a motel to get a good night's sleep, forgetting, of course, that it's Katie that's haunted and not his house, but who knows, it might buy them a night. However, Katie suddenly refuses to go, and I really love her Legion voice here. It's a really subtle effect.
I think we'll be okay now.
Multiple entendre.
And here goes Paranormal Activity's final night. For the sake of narration, I'll speed cut this. Kitty wakes up and stands by the bed staring at Mika for several hours, then wanders downstairs. After a drawn-out moment of silence, she starts screaming bloody murder, and Mika runs downstairs to help her. There's a brief scuffle and another moment of silence, followed by heavy footsteps coming up the stairs. Suddenly, Mika's body gets hurled down the hallway at the camera and knocks it over. A bloodstained Katie comes in and leans over the body before lunging at the camera while her face morphs into a demonic grin. An epilogue states that Katie hasn't been found. That's the end of the first Paranormal Activity movie. It's a pretty simple movie in just about every possible definition of the word, but it's also a shining example of how well found footage can work, which is probably why it was so hugely successful. But with that huge success comes cash-ins. The flood of movies that everybody hates that don't understand why the original's gimmick worked as well as it did. Paranormal Activity was excellent at holding on the spectacle and keeping everything fairly grounded in reality. The things that happen in the movie are all pretty realistic for the most part. And until the end, I could actually imagine most of these things happening in my own house, which is really creepy. Of course, I have cats, so there could be a demon chilling in my guest room and I'll never know the difference. A lot of what happened, shadows moving, doors creaking, and these odd noises, etc., are really primal things that probably freaked most of us out as kids. Found footage horror is supposed to be at least a little bit realistic, so when your movie ends with a knockdown, drag-out cult battle with demonic flames, levitation, and explosion, or a country preacher literally facing down a 20-foot tall incarnation of Satan himself, you kind of miss the point. But Paranormal Activity's climax wasn't even remotely an action set piece. Instead, it was the same static tripod shot as everything else that happened at night, and most of the action happened off screen. The tripod shot itself is something that I'll give the movie a lot of credit for. Actually, just the decision to put the camera down at all and show the character doing something besides holding the camera. The movie realized it couldn't shoot itself like any other movie, since instead of the omniscient point of view that can be anywhere it needs to be for artistic purposes, the point of view is an inanimate object in the scene held by a character. So it needs to take a little time and develop a character for the person holding the camera. Also, not always having the camera pointing directly at the action is a great tool for building tension and implying what's happening, so the audience has to work it out in their heads, which is always going to be a much scarier experience than just putting an image of what the director wants on screen. There's also the standard stuff of the actors improvising pretty well. I mean, the characterization isn't great, and sometimes Mika does give off a bit too much douchey frat bro bravado, but it seems to come from a place of a guy who genuinely wants to punch a demon in the dick for upsetting his girlfriend. And for me, that sort of motivation kind of puts a silver lining on the big dumbass. Things Going Bump in the Night is probably the oldest scary story known to mankind, but everything in this movie works really well together to tell that story in a pretty compelling and enjoyable way. Anyway, that's all for Modern Horror. I'll see you later. For updates, subscribe below or follow Build Environment on Facebook or Twitter. Cheers.